David was not an ordinary man. He was young, handsome, and most importantly, he was a millionaire. People knew him for his wealth, his expensive cars, his luxurious lifestyle, and his pride. Everywhere he went, people whispered about him. Some admired him, some hated him, but nobody could ignore him. One evening, David was at a grand party in the city. The hall was filled with music, laughter, and the clinking of glasses. Beautiful lights shined across the room, and everyone seemed happy. David stood in the center, surrounded by his friends. He was laughing loudly, showing off his success, and telling stories of how easy life was for him. His friends listened, but one of them smirked and said, "David, you think you can do anything in life because of your money. But let me tell you something, you don't know the real meaning of struggle. You don't know what love, sacrifice, or marriage really is." David raised an eyebrow. "Marriage? That's easy," he replied with a confident smile. "For me, marriage is nothing. If I want, I can marry anyone tomorrow." The group laughed. One of his friends leaned closer and said, "All right then, let's make it interesting. We dare you to marry a simple girl, someone with no money, no status, and live with her for 1 year. Do this, and prove us wrong." The whole group grew silent, waiting for David's response. The challenge hung in the air like a sharp blade. David's pride was too big to let it go. He could not let anyone think he was weak. He took a sip of his drink, looked at his friends with his sharp eyes, and said, "Done. I accept the bet. I will marry a girl who has nothing. And not only will I marry her, but I will also make this marriage look real to the world. At the end of 1 year, I will walk away like a winner. You will all see how easy it is for me." His friends clapped and laughed, half shocked and half entertained. One of them asked, "But what about love? You cannot buy love, David." David smirked. "Love? Who cares about love? I don't believe in it. Love is just a fairy tale poor people use to feel happy. For me, this is just a game. And like every game, I will win." The party went on, but the bet was now the center of attention. Everyone talked about it, everyone laughed about it. For David, it was a moment of pride. For others, it was a dangerous game. That night, when David went home, he stood in front of the mirror. He looked at his reflection and whispered, "A bet? That's all it is. I will show them that nothing is impossible for me. Marriage, love, relationships, it's all just words. I will prove them wrong." But deep inside, something strange touched his heart. Just for a second, he wondered, what if things do not go as planned? He quickly brushed the thought away. After all, he was a man who always won. The next morning, David's life looked the same. Business meetings, luxury cars, expensive suits, but his mind kept returning to the bet. He needed to find the perfect girl. Not perfect in looks or wealth, but perfect for his challenge. She had to be ordinary, someone simple, someone who would never imagine marrying a man like him. Days passed, and David kept searching. His friends teased him, reminding him of the bet. "So, where is your bride, Mr. Millionaire?" they laughed. David only smiled. "You will see soon. Very soon." The city was big, but fate often works in strange ways. One afternoon, while David was driving through a quiet street, he noticed a young woman standing near a small bookstore. She wore a simple dress, nothing fancy, nothing expensive. Her eyes were calm, filled with innocence. She helped an old lady cross the road, and her smile was gentle, pure, and real. David stopped his car and watched for a moment. He didn't know her name, he didn't know her story, but something about her seemed different. She was exactly the kind of person his friends had described, simple, kind, and ordinary. He whispered to himself, "Interesting. Very interesting." And in that moment, David decided, she would be the one. She would be his wife, not because of love, not because of destiny, but because of a bet. Little did he know, this simple decision would change his life forever. What started as a game was about to become a journey that would test his pride, his heart, and everything he believed in. The story had just begun. David had made his choice. The girl he saw near the bookstore was going to be the center of his bet. He did not know much about her, but he knew enough. She was simple, kind, and had no idea who he was. That was all he needed. Her name was Emma. She lived in a small house with her mother and younger brother. Life was not easy for her, but she never complained. She worked at the bookstore during the day and gave private lessons to children in the evening. For Emma, every coin she earned was important, because it helped her family survive. Emma believed in honesty, kindness, and love. She was not rich, but her heart was richer than gold. She often dreamed of one day marrying a man who would respect her, care for her, and build a simple but happy life with her. She had no idea that destiny had other plans for her. One afternoon, David walked into the bookstore where Emma worked. He wore a plain shirt, nothing too expensive, because he didn't want her to know he was a millionaire. He walked slowly, pretending to look at books, but his eyes were fixed on her. Emma noticed him. "Hello, can I help you find something?" she asked politely. David smiled. "I'm just looking," he said softly. That was the beginning. Day after day, David came back. Sometimes he bought a book, sometimes he just asked questions. Slowly, a friendship started to grow. Emma thought he was a simple man, quiet and polite. She never guessed that behind his gentle smile was a man playing a dangerous game. One evening, as Emma was closing the shop, David offered to walk her home. Along the way, he listened to her stories about life, her mother, her little brother, and her dreams. Emma spoke with honesty, without any fear. For her, David was a good listener, someone she could trust. But for David, every word she said was proof that she was the perfect girl for his bet. He thought, yes, she is the one. She doesn't know my world, she doesn't know my money. This will be easy. Weeks turned into months. Their friendship grew stronger. People in Emma's neighborhood began to notice. Some smiled and said, "Emma has found a good man." Emma herself was surprised at how quickly David became a part of her daily life. Then, one evening, David asked the question. They were sitting near the old park, under the yellow streetlights. He looked at her and said, "Emma, will you marry me?" Emma froze. Her heart raced. She had never imagined a man like him would propose so suddenly. "David, this is so fast. Marriage is a big decision," she whispered. David held her hand and replied, "I may not be rich, I may not have everything, but I promise I will be by your side. Life is short, Emma. Sometimes you just have to trust your heart." Emma looked into his eyes. They seemed honest, warm, and full of hope. She didn't know those eyes were hiding a secret. She didn't know that behind his sweet words was a bet. After a long silence, Emma nodded slowly. "Yes, David. I will marry you." David smiled. For him, it was victory. For Emma, it was love. The wedding was small and simple. No grand hall, no expensive decorations, just a small ceremony in a local church. Emma wore a white dress that her mother had stitched with love. David wore a black suit, looking calm and confident. Emma's eyes shined with tears of happiness. For her, this was the most beautiful day of her life. She thought she had found her forever partner. David, on the other hand, smiled for the photographs, shook hands, and thanked people politely. But inside his head, one thought kept repeating, "Step 1 complete. The bet has begun." After marriage, Emma welcomed David into her small world. She cooked for him, made tea when he was tired, and talked to him about her dreams. She treated him with respect and care, even though she thought he was just a simple man trying to make a living. David watched her closely. She was different from the women he usually met at parties. She didn't care about money, brands, or luxury. She cared about people, about feelings, about love. Sometimes, when she laughed, he felt something stir in his chest, something he didn't want to admit. But every time that feeling appeared, he reminded himself of the bet. "Don't forget, David. This is just a game. A one-year deal. Nothing more." Emma had no idea about the truth. She woke up every morning with a smile, believing she was living in a fairy tale. She thought her marriage was built on love. She didn't see the storm waiting for her. And David, he thought he was in control. He thought he was the winner of this game. But little did he know, the game had already begun to change him. The ordinary bride was about to teach the millionaire a lesson he never expected. The story was moving forward, and destiny had just started to play its role. Married life had begun. For Emma, it was a dream. She finally had a husband, a partner, a man who made her feel special. Every morning, she woke up with a smile, prepared breakfast, and waited for David to join her at the small wooden table in their kitchen. She often looked at him with love in her eyes, whispering to herself, "I am lucky." For David, it was different. At first, he treated everything like a joke. He woke up, looked at Emma, and thought, she really believes this marriage is real. Poor girl. He laughed inside, thinking about how he was winning the bet so easily. But days passed, and something unexpected began to happen. Emma's kindness was unlike anything David had ever seen. She was not impressed by money or status, because she didn't know about his wealth. She was impressed by honesty, respect, and small gestures of care. She was happy when David simply helped her carry groceries or asked how her mother was feeling. Every evening, Emma prepared dinner and listened carefully when David spoke. She treated his words with importance, no matter how small they were. Sometimes, when he was tired, she quietly placed a cup of tea near him without saying anything. Her actions spoke louder than words. David found himself watching her more closely. He noticed the way she laughed at small jokes, the way she prayed before sleeping, the way she hugged her brother with so much love. She was different from anyone he had ever met. For the first time in his life, David felt something he couldn't describe. It wasn't pride. It wasn't victory. It was something soft, something warm. Could it be love? But whenever that thought came to his mind, his pride pushed it away. This is not love, he told himself. This is just a bet. A stupid bet. Don't forget who you are, David. His friends also reminded him. One evening, he met them secretly at a fancy bar, away from Emma's eyes. They laughed and asked, "So, how is married life, champ? Is the poor girl taking good care of you?" David smirked, though deep inside he felt uneasy. "Yes, everything is going according to plan," he said. "She has no idea about the bet. After 1 year, I'll walk away as the winner." His friends clapped and raised their glasses. That's our David. But when he returned home that night, Emma was waiting for him at the door with a smile. She said softly, "You must be tired. I kept your dinner warm." David's heart felt heavy. For the first time, he couldn't look into her eyes. Weeks passed. Emma continued to care for him in every way. She reminded him to take medicine when he was sick, she prayed for his success, and she supported him with her gentle words. She didn't expect anything in return. David began to feel guilty. Sometimes he stayed awake at night, watching her sleep peacefully beside him. She looked so pure, so innocent. He thought, she trusts me with her whole heart. But if she knew the truth, she would hate me forever. The bet, which once felt like fun, now started to feel like a heavy burden. One day, Emma's younger brother fell ill. They didn't have enough money for proper treatment. Emma cried silently, worried about her family. When David saw her tears, something broke inside him. Without telling her, he secretly paid the hospital bills through a friend. The next day, Emma was shocked to hear that the expenses were covered. She turned to David with grateful eyes and said, "I don't know how this happened, but maybe God heard my prayers. Thank you for standing by me." David nodded, but inside, he knew the truth, he was the one who helped. For the first time, it wasn't about the bet. It was about her. The more time he spent with Emma, the more confused he became. His heart whispered, "You love her." But his pride shouted, "It's just a game. Don't forget the bet." This war inside him grew stronger each day. When Emma smiled, he wanted to protect her forever. But when his friends called, he wanted to prove them wrong, to win at any cost. David stood between two roads, love and lies. One rainy night, as thunder rolled in the sky, David sat alone, staring at the ring on his finger. He whispered to himself, "What am I doing? Is this still a bet, or is it something more?" At that very moment, Emma entered the room with 2 cups of tea. She placed one beside him and said softly, "No matter how hard life gets, remember, you are not alone." Her words cut deep into his heart. He wanted to tell her the truth. He wanted to say, "Emma, this marriage started as a bet." But the words never came out. Instead, he forced a smile, hiding the storm inside him. David was trapped. Every day, the line between love and lies grew thinner. Every moment with Emma pulled him closer to a truth he wasn't ready to face. He had started this marriage for pride, but now, pride was the only thing stopping him from accepting his real feelings. And soon, the truth, the ugly, painful truth, was going to come out. The story was moving toward a storm, and David had no idea how destructive it would be. The days of marriage passed, and for Emma, life felt perfect. She believed she had found true love in David. She trusted every word he said, every smile he gave, and every promise he made. To her, David was not just a husband, he was her world. But for David, the storm inside his heart kept growing. He had started this journey for a bet, yet now Emma's kindness and love were changing him. He wanted to forget the deal, forget his pride, and just hold on to her. But how could he face his friends? How could he admit that he had fallen in love with the very woman he chose as a joke? He was torn between two lives, one where he was the arrogant millionaire, and another where he was Emma's husband. One evening, David was invited by his friends to a private dinner at a luxury hotel. They wanted to celebrate his success. At first, he didn't want to go. He knew being around them would remind him of the ugly truth. But his pride forced him to attend. Emma, being the supportive wife she was, encouraged him. "Go, David," she said with a smile. "Spend time with your friends. I'll wait for you." Her innocence made his heart ache. At the hotel, David's friends raised their glasses. "To David, the winner of the greatest bet ever," one of them shouted. David's face turned pale. "Lower your voice," he said sharply. But his friends only laughed louder. "Why, David? She has no idea, right? Poor Emma thinks you married her for love. If only she knew the truth, that it was all a game, a silly bet." David clenched his fists. "Stop it," he warned. But they continued, mocking, laughing, reminding him of every cruel detail. And then, fate played its card. Emma had arrived at the hotel. She wanted to surprise David with a small gift she had bought for him. She walked into the hallway near the private dining room and froze when she heard the laughter inside. Her heart stopped as the words reached her ears. David married her to win a bet. She was just a challenge. She was never real to him. Emma's hands trembled. The gift box slipped from her fingers and fell to the floor. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. Her world shattered in seconds. She pushed the door open. Everyone in the room turned to look at her. David's heart sank. Emma's eyes were filled with tears. Her voice broke as she asked, "Is it true, David? Was our marriage just a bet?" The room grew silent. David opened his mouth, but no words came out. His silence was louder than any answer. Emma's tears rolled down her cheeks. She whispered, "I gave you my heart. I gave you my trust. And you gave me a lie." David stepped forward, desperate. "Emma, listen to me. It started as a bet, yes, but now." Emma raised her hand, stopping him. "No, David. Don't say another word. If you had loved me even a little, you would have told me the truth yourself. Instead, I had to hear it like this, from your friends." She turned away, her heart breaking with every step. David tried to follow, but she shouted, "Stay away from me." Back at home, Emma packed her few belongings. Her mother and brother watched in shock as she cried. Her mother asked, "Emma, what happened?" Emma could only whisper, "It was all a lie. My marriage, my happiness, everything." She left the house quietly that night, leaving behind a letter for David. When David returned, he found the letter on the table. His hands shook as he opened it. "David, you took my love and turned it into a game. I thought you were my destiny, but I was only your challenge. I don't hate you, but I cannot live with a lie. I am leaving, not because I stopped loving you, but because I loved you too much to stay." David dropped the letter. His chest felt heavy, his breath uneven. For the first time in his life, the proud millionaire broke down in tears. He had lost the one person who loved him not for his money, not for his status, but for his soul. Days turned into nights, and David found no peace. His house felt empty, his heart felt hollow. His friends no longer laughed, their bet was over, but David had lost much more than a game. He realized too late that Emma had become his truth, his love, his life. Now, he stood alone, asking himself, can I ever win her back? Or is it too late? The bet had brought him to Emma. The lie had taken her away. And now, only love could decide his fate. David's life had fallen apart. The mansion that once echoed with laughter now felt like a prison. His luxury cars, expensive suits, and endless wealth meant nothing. Every night, he sat alone, reading Emma's letter over and over again. Each word was like a knife, cutting deeper into his soul. He had won the bet, but he had lost the woman who made him believe in love. For the first time, the proud millionaire admitted to himself, I am empty without her. Weeks passed, and David tried to reach Emma. He went to her house, but she was gone. Her mother told him, Emma doesn't want to see you. She trusted you more than anyone, and you broke her heart. Please, let her heal. David's chest tightened. I don't want to hurt her anymore, he whispered. I just want to make things right. But how could he? How could a man erase a lie that destroyed someone's world? David changed. He stopped attending parties, stopped meeting his so-called friends. He threw away the arrogance that once defined him. Instead, he spent his time helping people, quietly, without showing his name or face. He donated to schools, paid medical bills for poor families, and supported small shops in Emma's neighborhood. He hoped, deep inside, that one day Emma would hear about his change, not from him, but from others. He wanted her to know he was no longer the selfish man she married for a bet. But still, Emma stayed away. One rainy afternoon, David saw her again for the first time in months. She was walking with her younger brother near the bookstore. Her face looked calmer, but her eyes carried the pain of the past. David's heart raced. He wanted to run to her, to fall on his knees, to beg for forgiveness. But he stopped himself. He knew she owed him nothing. Emma noticed him. Their eyes met. For a moment, time stood still. David took a slow step forward. Emma, he whispered. Emma's lips trembled, but she turned away and walked on. She was not ready to face him. David stood in the rain, his tears mixing with the drops, his heart screaming, I love you. But his voice never left his lips. Days later, David made a decision. He wrote a letter, not to win her back, but to confess everything. Emma, I don't deserve your forgiveness. But I need to say this. The bet brought me to you, but your love changed me. I was blind, arrogant, and cruel. Yet you showed me what real love is. If you can never forgive me, I will understand. But know this, I love you, not because of a game, but because you are the only truth in my life. He left the letter at her doorstep and walked away. He didn't wait for an answer. He had hurt her enough. Weeks turned into months. David focused on becoming a better man. He built a foundation in Emma's name, supporting women and children who struggled like her family once did. He no longer lived for pride. He lived for redemption. Then, one morning, as he was leaving his office, he saw her. Emma stood near the gate, holding his letter in her hand. David froze. His heart pounded. Emma walked closer, her eyes filled with tears. Why did you write this? She asked softly. David's voice trembled. Because it's the truth. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just wanted you to know how much you mean to me. Emma looked at him for a long moment. Then she said, You broke me, David. You destroyed my trust. But I also saw the man you have become. People talk about how you are helping others. They say you have changed. David lowered his head. I changed because of you. You showed me what love is, even when I didn't deserve it. I don't want your forgiveness to heal my guilt. I just want you to be happy, even if it's without me. Emma's tears fell. She whispered, Do you love me, David? Truly. Without any games, without any lies. David looked into her eyes, his voice firm, steady, and honest. With everything I am. There was silence. The world around them disappeared. Only two hearts stood in that moment, broken but still beating for each other. Emma closed her eyes. Her heart wanted to forgive, but her mind remembered the pain. Forgiveness was not easy. Trust was not simple. She finally whispered, "I don't know if I can forget the past, but maybe, just maybe, we can build a new future." David's eyes widened. "Emma." Emma looked at him, her tears shining like diamonds. "Don't thank me yet. This is not a fairytale ending. This is a second chance. If you ever break me again, I will walk away forever." David nodded, his heart overflowing. "I will spend my whole life proving myself worthy of this chance." And so, the story that began as a bet turned into something far greater. It was not about pride anymore. It was not about winning. It was about love, forgiveness, and the courage to change. Whether their future would be perfect or not, nobody knew. But in that moment, under the quiet morning sun, David and Emma stood together, not as a bet, not as a game, but as two souls trying again. The millionaire had lost the game but found something far more precious: love.